Senator Lindsey Graham, fresh off getting another 6 years from his people, is set to help us make heads or tails of what happened in Paris. Senator Graham, welcome back.
Well, thank you, Brian. Happy New Year to you.
I wish one time we could talk not about war and not about a terror attack, but this is what's happened. Before we analyze how the French have been approaching security and seeing how they can fix it, what did you take from the attack itself?
It is not a lone wolf attack. It's not a SEAL Team 6 raid. It is somewhere in between. Command and control definitely exists. This was not a suicide mission. They had a plan to hit a specific target with heavy weapons. They had an escape plan. One was a recidivist who had already been convicted for funneling people into Iraq. So these are not, just mentally disturbed people. Command and control existed. Whether it was directed outside of France, I don't know.
Well, I'll add this to the whole fray, and that is the longer we provide these safe havens and the longer we provide these base of terror opportunities in ISIS, in northern Africa, the more we're going to have these problems. These guys were too competent to dismiss, and now they seem to want to live.
Well, at the end of the day, they want to live to kill us. They're willing to die. They're trying to take as many of us down as possible. They're trying to break our will so the caliphate can be established. There's a possibility they're connected to the Yemeni Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. Here's where we stand.
Well, that's what they claimed. An eyewitness said that's what he said. Give me some credit for this. That's where we're from.
Right. So what does that mean? There are more terrorist organizations throughout the Mideast with more safe havens, with more capability, with more money, with more weapons, with more members than before 9/11. Well, what does that mean for us in France? These groups are in a competition with each other to recruit members and to be seen as the biggest guy on the block. The Olympic competition going on between terrorist groups is bad news for us because the gold medal will go to the group that can hit us here at home. So Obama's policies in many ways have contributed to this. His decision to pull out of Iraq without leaving a residual force allowed Al-Qaeda in Iraq, the predecessor to ISIL, to come back alive. 68 of the 132 detainees at Gitmo come from Yemen. Nobody's talking about Libya or Yemen enough. So the safe havens for terrorist organizations, multiple in nature, has grown on Obama's watch, and their ability to hit us has grown.
Well, the other thing that bothers me is that you are just waking up in the morning and finding out 6 more guys will be going to these abstract nations. One to Uruguay without any surveillance, one back to their home country without any arrests. How do they become the worst of the worst that need to be put in an isolated island, be put in detention, and now they're free to go, and he's not even checking with Congress?
A political promise made by President Obama is driving this. There's not a rational reason to let these people go. We're down to the hardest of the hard. The number of organizations that would like to recruit them is going up, not down. The war is not over. It's going into a new, more dangerous phase. But here's a policy choice of President Obama that's really going to hurt us. For the last year or so, we've captured several high-value targets, bin Laden's son-in-law, people associated with Al-Qaeda and ISIL and other groups, and we read them their Miranda rights. We don't put them in Gitmo. We don't hold them as enemy combatants for long-term interrogation to gather intelligence. So we've taken intelligence gathering off the table. We're criminalizing the war, and at the same time, we're letting people go. I believe the only reason most of these people at Gitmo have not gone back to the fight is because they've been in jail. We've got a 30% recidivism rate that we know of. So there's a perfect storm building between the budget cuts that Congress has imposed through sequestration on our Department of Defense, on our intelligence community, on the NSA that will make us deaf and blind in terms of future attacks, and poor policy choices by President Obama, campaign promises like to get out of Iraq no matter what. There's a perfect storm brewing for us to be hit and hit hard.
Sadly, yeah. And if you tackle that, what's going on in New York, which I know is far from South Carolina, but it's not far from what every terrorist wants to hit. These arrests are to the point, they're down so low, the courts are closing early, Senator Graham, because the cops have said we're disrespected by our mayor. We are being told we have to be retrained. We went from the best police force in the world to the most vilified, and they are fed up. This is a perfect storm of hell.
Well, name a target that the terrorists would like to hit more than Washington or New York.
None.
I mean, that's in the top tier. So here's what Republicans and Democrats ought to be thinking about. After Paris, clearly the French intelligence system failed. They've got to be right once. We've got to be right every time. When you look at our intelligence gathering capability, the lack of being able to hold people as enemy combatants and put them in law of war detention, budget cuts hurting our intelligence community's ability to detect future attacks. You cannot deter these guys. You have to hit them before they hit you. Our policy choices that have led to greater safe havens because President Obama wants to lead from behind and withdraw. All of this stuff needs to be addressed. We need to change our detention policy. We need to go after ISIL in a more direct and aggressive way. If it takes 3 years for us to liberate Mosul, God knows what's going to come our way, because every day they have these safe havens, Brian, in Yemen and Libya and Iraq and Syria, is a day to recruit another foreign fighter that can come to America.
Absolutely. Senator Graham with us right now. Senator, there's something else that we really have to begin to address, and that is the deal that the president, we're going to wake up like Cuba and find out he cuts his deal with Iran. Now,
That's
you guys are talking about legislation that would make the president check with you before anything's passed. Could you tell me what that's about and where it's at?
Okay. Of the threats we face as a nation, international terrorism is great. Another 9/11 is very possible. But the thing that would change the world in the most egregious way is for the Obama administration to do a bad deal with Iran over their nuclear ambitions and have a North Korea outcome where the Iranian nuclear program, to be controlled by the United Nations, results one day in a weapon in the hands of the Ayatollahs. I fear that more than anything else. I think the Obama administration wants to deal way too badly, Brian, that it's going to be a North Korea in the making. So what I'm saying, if you do a deal with Iran over their nuclear program, send it to Congress. Let us look at it. It can't become binding until we vote on it. That is a check and balance that makes sense to me. And if it's a good deal, I'll vote for it. But I fear that they're going to give the Ayatollahs a deal that will one day lead to a nuclear weapon, and the Sunni Arabs are not going to allow the Iranian Shia Persians to have a nuclear weapon to hold over their heads, and you're setting up a nuclear arms race in the Mideast. That's why Congress should weigh in here.
So how do you do that legislatively? How do you get the president? Does the president have to sign off on that?
Okay. Who created the sanctions? Where did the sanctions against Iran come from?
I believe it came from you guys in the Senate.
It came from the Congress. So all I'm saying is, Mr. President, we created the sanction regime. If you do a deal to lift it, we want to say about whether or not we agree to lift the sanctions that we created. It would be a vote of disapproval. Within 15 days of the deal being entered into, it would come to Congress. We would have a floor debate and vote, and if the deal is disapproved, then we would cut off all funding to implement the deal. If we approve the deal, it goes forward. I cannot believe a Democrat trusts Obama so much that they would want the deal to go forward without even looking at it, knowing it is the biggest decision President Obama will ever make.
But they never stand up to him. I know Senator Menendez and Senator Schumer have been rumbling of late and felt really disrespected, but I like to see them follow through with something.
Well, how could a member of Congress say to their constituents, a nuclear weapon in the hands of the Iranians, don't you believe that's the ultimate game changer in the Mideast?
Yeah, but he's not going to pose it as that. He's going to say, I have gotten guarantees to move the uranium that could be weaponized into Russia.
Right. Well, all I'm saying is that the enrichment capability that they're going to leave behind in Iran one day will result in a nuclear capability as it did North Korea. I'm not prejudging a deal. Here's what I'm telling members of Congress. Given the consequences of this deal and the fact that you created the sanctions, you, the Congress, how could you justify not wanting to have a say about it? How do you explain that?
I don't, and it's just maddening. Now,
what does Hillary Clinton say?
Yeah,
does Hillary Clinton say that I wouldn't want Congress to review this deal? Does she agree to a deal? What will the Israelis say about this nuclear deal? What will the Sunni Arabs say about this nuclear deal? If they object and we don't have a forum in the Congress to listen to what they have to say and review this deal, you're going to lock in the most catastrophic foreign policy decision any president could make, which would be a bad deal with the Iranians over their nuclear program.
Now, you were taking pictures with the vice president this week, correct?
Yeah.
How'd that go?
I love Joe Biden. He's been wrong about almost everything, but I like him a lot. He's a man of... he knows how to cut a deal. If I were the president, I would let Joe Biden, I'd cut him loose and come over here and see if he could put an infrastructure deal together where we take overseas money parked at 35% and have a one-time good deal to bring it back in the country and create infrastructure. I like the vice president. President Obama will not articulate the fact that we're at war with radical Islam. The president of Egypt made a compelling speech urging the Muslim world to take on these jihadists and to marginalize them within their own religion. Our president will not even admit the fact that this is a religious war. The people we're fighting hate us, will either convert us or kill us. Same for moderate Muslims, same for Jews, same for vegetarians. The president of the United States feels like if he's strong, that is somehow like being as offensive to some. He wants to be Bush, not like Bush, so bad that he can't articulate a strong foreign policy because that makes him a cowboy in his own mind.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough 2 years. It's going to be a really rough 2 years. And I'm sitting behind this microphone telling people that you guys are going to start getting things done. And then when I watch the president's posture when it comes to the XL pipeline, and I see the fact that he's traveling rather than meeting with you guys, and you're somebody he used to like to talk to.
Yeah.
So what's going on? Do you have any optimism?
Not much. Democrats have got to understand why they got creamed. Most of them lost because of the unpopularity of the president. He is picking 30% of the public when it comes to the Keystone Pipeline, the hardcore environmental groups. He is deferring to them rather than going with 70% of the public who wants to have energy independence and create American jobs. All I can say is that the Keystone Pipeline is going to be a chance for Democrats to show that they understand the world as it is and not follow a liberal ideologue. But of all the things I can do to help my nation, my party, and the country as a whole, we got to replace these defense cuts called sequestration. Mm-hmm. They go back into effect. This is insane to reduce the Navy to 1915 levels, the Army to the level of 1940, gut the Air Force and the Marine Corps, and shut down the CIA, FBI, intelligence gathering capability along with the NSA. I want to find a replacement for these sequestration cuts on the defense side, and I also want to contain the Iranian nuclear ambitions. I believe that Obama wants a deal with Iran as a legacy issue, that he's going to give away the farm, and of all the things that we need to be aware of is the consequences of a bad deal with Iran, and Congress needs to speak up.
And Senator Menendez could do that. People will see that he's a liberal from New Jersey, and if he's upset, there might be something there.
Bob Menendez is very upset about being blindsided with Cuba. This choice on Cuba was just ridiculous, to just give them everything they want without any democracy advancing. So it's just an example of him wanting a deal without the consequences. Letting prisoners go out of Gitmo at a time the world is on fire is a political campaign promise that's run amok. Mm-hmm. I hope Menendez and Schumer and other Democrats will understand that we've got to be united when it comes to having a say about the Iranian nuclear program.
And real quick, are you running for president?
I'll let you know. What I'm going to do is look at the field. We got a lot of guys out there, but I believe the next president of the United States needs to be a good commander-in-chief. I know I could be a good commander-in-chief. I think there are people in the field that could be good commanders-in-chief. But what drives my thinking is this nation is on the road to becoming Greece. Somebody needs to do a big deal like Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill. We need to fix immigration instead of yelling about it. And if we don't get our national security posture in a better position, God help us all. So I want a debate in 2015 and 2016 worthy of a great party, and I want the next president of the United States to learn from the mistakes of Obama before it's too late.
And you think you might have to force that debate. If you don't see it happening, that means you'll jump in. Will you wait and see if anybody...
I'm going to do two things. I'm going to be an active senator. I'm going to try to stop a bad deal with Iran. I'm going to try to rebuild our military as a United States senator. I want to have a voice about fixing immigration in a rational way and get this party back in better standing with the Hispanic community who are there for the taking. I have an opportunity as a United States senator to do things, but there is no voice like that at the President of the United States. Every day that I see what President Obama is doing to our national security is a day of great regret for me. We need a voice in the White House as we go into the end of this decade, this new century, to reset the world. Our friends are afraid, our enemies are emboldened, and our friends in Israel and our world are hurt. And I'm going to do as much as I can as a United States senator, and if I need to go to the next level to elevate this conversation, I will.
Senator, thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.